Because in the double shield tanks, I could kill them sometimes. I could pick Doomfist and go like one shot. So my Sigma was 400 HP. Now it's like a 900 HP Sigma post season 9 changes. That's getting triple pocketed by 2 supports that have hyper mobility. Alari has a CC, better DPS, the most DPS in the game, that are hit scan with 2 deep ults that are better DPS ults than my entire role. You guys know what it is. It's time for some unfiltered, honest thoughts about Season 11. I wanted to give it some time, and I will say, we're going to start out with the good before I get into why I think this season is it just kind of sucks, but I will say they are really close to actually making it pretty damn fun. Let's just get right into it, okay? They are very close. Let's talk about some of the good things that they did, because I really want to highlight this, okay? The Cassidy changes were probably the most interesting, fun, healthy game design changes I have seen developers put in Overwatch ever, okay? What did they do? And here's the key thing. High Noon previously was so unbelievably unfun to play against because they just gave it free damage reduction. There's no counterplay there. If he's just getting damage reduction, no matter what I do to him as a player, he's not going to die, right? Unless I stun him as Doomfist or do something like that. There was no counterplay to High Noon, right? None. But it was still immobile. So that's kind of boring and one-dimensional to play against. Like, if he's sitting still down mid, I should be able to headshot him as Hanzo and kill him or something like that, right? But you couldn't do that anymore. Now, what they did, and this is super, super smart, is they started him out with damage reduction. But as the High Noon duration goes on, he gains movement speed but loses his damage reduction. Meaning, if the player wants to take a risk and chase down a kill, he can. But there's risk associated with it, which means there's a lot of decision making. And that also means I can make a play on him. And having everybody in the lobby be able to make plays on each other is what made Overwatch have such a beautiful depth to it that made the learning curve almost go on forever. So I really want to give them credit on that change. I think that's one of the best changes they've ever made. I think the Sojourn changes are also really good. They had to tune her down because of high level play, she was really good. And now from the point where she is now, they can try to make her more accessible without dominating the high level play as much, which would be what her stats would indicate. And frankly, that's just kind of the truth of the character. It's just how she played. She was too good at high level play and too bad at low level play. The spread changes they gave her were really bad in Season 2, and they just took her the wrong direction, but now she's at a point where they can actually do that. So there are a couple things they hammered. Suzu finally got some meaningful nerfs that, honestly, again, didn't gut the ability, but still, it doesn't cleanse knockdown effects, as it shouldn't. I remember being in the NDA call and saying that Kiriko and Suzu were going to be insanely broken, and I remember being told, but you have to time it so it's fair. Just unbelievable. Really, really just unbelievable. But, it's good to see them finally, trying to make those changes and tune those things down as they should be. So those were a couple of things that were really, really good with this season. Let's start talking about the elephant in the room. And then let me say this. How these seasons work, all it takes are 1 or 2 things to be overpowered for it to, break the season and make the season suck. So, ultimately, you see the most return for reward, or, the reverse of diminishing returns, when you get that last 1 or 2 broken things or overtuned things. And then when you get those things out of the way, the game's actually in a really, really good spot. However, there's quite a few of those. Let's start out with Pharah. It's pretty crazy that Pharah did not get tuned down. Her rocket speed is just too fast. I would nerf her rocket speed as well as probably her right click. The dash is just, it comes up too often and she needs to be punished a little bit easier. I would not gut the character. I don't think she's overpowered. I just think she's overtuned. And that's a very important distinction because you just need to tune her down just a little bit and then she's fine. I would not overdo it and hit Pharah with the hammer. I would not do that. I think she just needs to get tuned down a little bit and then she's okay. Let's talk about the elephant in the room, though. And it's so unfortunate, and I'm not sure if most of you guys have to deal with this, but Alari, man. Alari, I don't get it. And you know what? I could just lay into them right now. But I'm just going to try to explain this like I'm talking to a toddler because I just want this to get fucking changed. How has Pylon not been changed yet? How? Why would you buff the Pylon, man? She's already better than every DPS in the game. And the problem with playing against Pylon, and this is a very important distinction to make, and I want people to really understand this. Pylon cannot have 100% uptime. Here's why it's poorly designed. Let me explain. It's bad for everybody, for low-level players and for high-level players too, okay? For low-level players, if you're going to have it have 100% uptime, right, it has to have a really long cooldown and reward the players when you actually break it. Low-level players have no idea how to use the ability or have no clue where to put it, just like everything else in the game. These kids suck, and that's fine. You don't have to be good at the game. But the problem with that is they'll throw the pylon where it can be easily broken, and somebody's going to break it. It's going to be down for 12 seconds. Then they're going to feed on Alari, and then everyone's going to think the hero's bad, just like they did with Brigitte when Brigitte was breaking high-level play, okay? But high-level players are going to put the pylon on an angle that is quite literally unbreakable. There is no counterplay. There is nothing I can do to it as a DPS player. Either I play Sombra on hard flank and waste my entire first exchange trying to break a pylon, a turret, like I'm playing Bloons Tower Defense 6. It's awful. Absolutely abysmal game design. It's so bad. Okay? And if you guys are high-level players, you understand how much of a waste of time that is and how OP that is. The fact that I have to use an entire cycle just to clear the pylon to then set up again and dive just hard forces poke meta. Okay? So the high-level players are going to put on an angle that I cannot break on a DPS character that is better at dueling than every DPS in the fucking game. Okay? With a better DPS ult than most DPS in the game. Literally. And that's fine. The ult's fine. But there's no counterplay for me there. It's insanely unhealthy. So low-level players get no value on it. High-level players do. And the difference is, when it's Torb Turret that stays up the whole game, in order for Torb Turret to actually be doing anything, it has to be at risk, right? That pylon or that Torb Turret has to be in LOS of you and shooting you. And it has to be placed really far back generally, or else it's not going to get value. The pylon doesn't. The pylon just has to be in line of sight of where the fight is. It doesn't actually have to be in a spot that can be contested by most of the cast. So if you're playing Reinhardt and you can't fire strike it, you cannot clear it no matter what you do. If you're playing Reaper and it's high up in the air, you cannot break it. If you're playing like literally any poke hero in general, if you aren't on an off angle that can wrap around that pylon, there is no counterplay. So now they just have a third support on the field, and we're back in 6v6 with 3 fucking supports and a raid boss tank, which guess what a tank pairs well with Alari? Fucking Sigma, who still is one of the most... I think Sigma is the brig of tank. I think Sigma is the most game-breaking tank they've ever put in the game. Look at how Mayhem won. I'm pretty sure Mayhem won Overwatch, like running Sig on maps that aren't Sig. Every high-level game now is just BAP Sigma or BAP Alari. It fucking sucks when 70% of my games are like that. Sigma is not fun to play against. He's been an S-tier character since Overwatch 2 happened. And no matter what the meta is, and I wonder why Double Shield happened, it's almost like the character's insanely overkitted. He just has a matrix for free that gives him overhealth. Explain that to me. Whenever Sigma is getting played consistently, the game is shit. Just like when Mauga is getting played, the game is shit. It's just ass. So now that Sigma is just getting played on every map because he's been overkitted from his inception and they never sat down and attempted to fix the damn hero, it's constantly Double Shield but worse. Because in the Double Shield tanks, I could fucking kill them sometimes. I could pick Doomfist and go like one shots. My Sigma was 400 HP. Now it's like a 900 HP Sigma post season 9 changes that's getting triple pocketed by 2 supports that have hypermobility. Alari has a CC, better DPS than most DPS in the fucking game, that are hit scan with 2 deep ults that are better DPS ults than my entire fucking role. And BAP has an immortality field. So I literally am just playing Bloons Tower Defense 6, shooting the pylon, shooting the MO, shooting through BAP Shift, which has got power corrupt in this game to burst heal now, through Sigma's insane health pools. Like, it is actually like, and this is the problem. This is why changing formats and never addressing core design problems has done so much damage to Overwatch. And now that might be a high-level rant thing where you guys aren't really seeing BAP Alari Sigma, right? But no offense, balance doesn't matter in your ranks because I'm not saying you shouldn't balance the floor, but balance changes don't tend to affect low-level play as much. They aren't as effective because nobody's playing the game properly anyway. Generally, the changes that you see affect low-level play are changes to characters at their skill floor. Like, the main targeted balance at low-level play needs to be heroes like Moira when they're just rewarding too much, right? Because people aren't executing properly whatsoever. So changes targeted at the skill floor are what usually will affect low-level play. What affects high-level play is completely different. So back to Alari, she would just be a much healthier hero for everybody if that pylon did not have 100% uptime. It is insanely fucking broken, unfun, with no goddamn counterplay. And the fact that they didn't learn their lesson post-season 7 just goes to show you I'm not sure how willing they are to learn about how support design has been fucking horrible. It sucks. It absolutely sucks because it could be better for everybody. What you do is you make it so the pylon has a fixed duration on the map and you lower the cooldown so that when bad players are putting it in bad spots, They get it back faster, making her more viable for the lower ranked players, but also less oppressive and having way more counterplay. Because if you force her pylon out, you do have the option to kite out, or if she uses it early. Ability timings matter. Instead, they're trying to make heroes with no fucking weaknesses that have 100% uptime. And that has never once been a good thing for Overwatch. Never once. What made the original cast so interesting and made the game so dynamic is that nobody had 100% uptime. Reinhardt, if his shield breaks, he's sitting there like a fucking bot. He doesn't have infinite resources. What made double shield suck? Oh, they constantly cycled their cooldowns for 100% uptime while doing everything in the game with better brawl abilities and better poke than everything in the game. Oh, wow, that sucked ass. And yet, here they are again, not addressing the same type of design flaws in a worse format. So now they stick out like sore thumbs and they're even harder to play against. It sucks. It fucking sucks. And I just don't understand how they haven't fixed that yet. Now, they're close. To be fair, like, they could change it. But, like, the fact that most of these games are Sigma or Mauga and they think tanks need to get buffed is insane. It's fucking insane, dude. Mauga is a worse version of GOATs. Because at least in GOATs, in order for everybody to become fucking super tanks and tank heroes, they had to do some form of execution. Now the Mauga just presses E, and guess what? His whole team gets fucking damage reduction. It's so bad. I can't kill anything through that. So it just forces counter swapping even more because it just seems like it's Sigmas and Maugas trading all the fucking time. And D.Va now too, as a DPS, feels like shit to play against. 4-second DM, 750 health with all that armor. And by the way, they've had to power, like, I'm making a video talking about power creep. There's been more power creep in 11 seasons of Overwatch 2 than there were in 30 of Overwatch 1. It's insane. Like, the old armor being back, like, if you're a DPS player and you've been shooting at tanks, you feel it. Like, you don't do damage. You don't do fucking damage. The only way they can try to make 5v5 tanking work is by making these tanks invulnerable. It sucks. Because again, why was that Cassidy change such a brilliant change? There was risk associated with the play that he had to make. And that makes the game so beautiful. Because it's a mind game. Because I feel like as a player, okay, no matter what hero I'm on, I can make a play on this guy, but I have to be smart and execute with how I do it. And that made Overwatch have a depth that no other game has really been able to capture since it came out, but Marvel Rivals did. Hopefully Deadlock will too, right? So it's just insane to me that they just keep falling for the same shit that ruined the first game. Except now they're in a format that makes it stand out even more when they fuck it up. And it frustrates me to no end to see them like attempt to keep doing the same shit as if they haven't learned their lesson. What Overwatch needs is to take a step back. They need to do more things like that Cassidy change and less random buffs at tanks to try to make them meta all of a sudden, that make them harder to play against as a DPS. And I don't care what people say, well, unless why are you showing a D.Va? Are we really going to act like you don't run into the tank in this game? Like, sure, there aren't two tanks, but at least the tanks in 6v6 and Overwatch 1 were fucking killable outside of, oh, wait, which hero's Sigma? Oh, wait, the most unfun fucking tank to play against in the damn game besides Mauga. Thank God they nerfed Orisa, by the way. And wow, that's crazy that Orisa was also unfun, too. It's almost like the sustain abilities and the super high sustain tanks are always insanely unfun to play against. Because guess what? With their stats at their floor, they auto-deny enormous amounts of value. That's why playing against Zarya was fine in Overwatch 1. Even kind of fine now, too, because she's at least somewhat killable, although her bubbles come back way too damn fast. That's why playing against Queen right now. Queen is one of the most fun tanks to play against. Because she doesn't have the insane stats and bailout that Sigma has, that Mauga has, that Orisa had, that whatever flavor of the month that has insane sustain had. The game's way more fun than Hog! Hog! Oh my god! Hog has a 6-second hook and still is running around one-shotting me. It sucks! And I can't fucking kill him. Because the damage reduction on headshot and the vape, the Hog rework actually made him less fun to play against. And that's how these tanks have to work in 5v5. Ball has so much health right now, he can't die either. The state of this game is unfucking salvageable post Season 9 with this power creep. And the only reason it was fun in Season... Like, I don't even know where to start with this. The reason why I wasn't that bad in Season 9 was because you could still at least get crits on these tanks, right? Like, the crit damage matters. But now I'm getting rewarded less and less passively as a DPS because they can't figure out how to make tanking work in 5v5. From the armor changes to 25% less headshot damage, it's just chalked, guys. Do you all see now? The only way they can fix tank is by buffing it so much that it feels like shit to play against as a DPS. And I did say this was going to happen post Season 9. I said it was eventually just going to go to a mindless poke meta, which is what it is now. That's why Pharah's so good. because she can sit in the back of the map and just spam at these tanks. And she's not affected by the DPS, the tank passive with less headshot damage. And she was a big beneficiary of the armor changes. And so the game has just become sit back as Alari and Pharah and Cass and Sigma and shoot at each other, just like Double Shield, with no playmaking, because that's what power creep creates. When you don't try to go back and fix these designs that are fundamentally flawed, you create these metas. And it's just so fucking boring with autopilot. It just sucks. And I just don't understand. Like, again, I'm excited to see what Aaron's going to say about 6v6. I expect it to be a big nothing burger as they continue to power creep this game more and wonder why shit doesn't work and wonder why the players aren't receiving well to it. Wonder why more 5v5 horrible critiques come out on random channels and like literally naked YouTube channels who have never uploaded, and they get tens of thousands, like maybe even hundreds of thousands of views. That's because people are starting to wake up and realize this shit is not the fucking answer. And they just will not backtrack. It's insane. It's insane that they won't backtrack. But don't worry, guys. I'm sure the next set of tank buffs will solve the problem. And it just makes the game boring. But they're so close to making it good. Like, and I'll be honest, they need to net nerf everything. If they net nerfed everything in the game, like 5v5 would actually feel a lot better. But it's just expedited again. The bumps and the hills became mountains in 5v5. And that's what the big problem is. They need to take a step back and look at what made heroes like Reinhardt fun and fair to play against. Even Original Hog a little bit more, where he had to sit still and vape, and there was a downside to him vaping. When there was a downside and a risk associated with high nooning. When Winston dives in and you can easily break his bubble. When Zarya only had one bubble and 400 HP for herself. When she had risk associated, she had to position smart. She couldn't just walk down mid. It was a big mind game, and there was a big exchange between every player on the map to where everyone could play into each other and make things happen. Season 11 has lost all of that, and it's not coming back anytime soon until they can be honest about the direction Overwatch 2 has gone. This game has deteriorated far faster than Overwatch 1 did. And guess what? It's not a honeymoon phase. It's the reality of the poor design. It's a reality of 5v5. It's a reality of the endless power creep where every hero has a live button. Every hero has a get out of jail free button. Having risk be associated with these kits is what made the game interesting from a dynamic of a player's perspective and player agency and player decision making. If every decision you make has risk associated with it, it creates a game of chess. If there's no risk, it becomes checkers. And if they stopped buffing tanks endlessly, if they stopped letting every hero get a get out of jail free card, if they stopped buffing ults to the point where they had no downside and started making more changes like the Cass High Noon change, which seriously was such a fucking good change, the game would feel great. But it doesn't, because they won't. And that's why Season 11 sucks. This season sucks, man. This season absolutely sucks. And we got lucky at the start of Season 9 that it was dive meta, because dive is all about proactivity and having risk associated with it. But there is no risk, or very minimal risk, associated with these poke comps. There's no risk associated with putting on a pylon at a spot where it literally cannot be contested. Because you can put it in spots where players will never get line of sight on it, because you can hold an angle that would force them to not be able to look at the pylon. It's not fun. It's not fun. It's just not fucking fun. So, tune down Pharah, revert all of these bullshit tank buffs, revert the armor changes. They were fucking horrible. And I just do more stuff like the cast change, please. Like, Blizzard, to be honest with you guys, you are as close as you're going to get in 5v5. But the answer is not senseless buffs, guys. You got to stop buffing everything. And I'm trying to say this as nice as possible. Marvel Rivals beta is in like 2 or 3 weeks. I'm going to be playing that instead. I hope everybody else does too, because honestly, like, they're never going to learn until we leave and go to a new game. Unfortunately, there's just no live service games out right now that actually have the pacing and feel of Overwatch. There's none. There's not a single game out there. But the competition is coming, and if Blizzard does not wake up to this shit, it's going to be too late. And frankly, I don't have any faith in them, because it took them 1 year to even have the 6v6 discussion, and we all know Aaron's going to come out with a big-ass nothing burger, and that's going to really suck. So, I don't know, man. I just want the game back where there was risk associated, there was a lot of playmaking, and there's going to be 6v6 pugs footage in the background of this video. It just goes to show how fluid tank could be when everybody's health pool is lower, but instead they just continuously buff this. And I hope my editors put this at the start. There's 6v6 gameplay in the background that show you guys how fun the game is when stats aren't inflated, when everybody can make plays on each other. There's so much more thought that has to be put into the game, and that makes the game way more fun. So, I don't know, man. That's it for me. Season 11 sucks ass. They've got a chance. They do have a good chance to redeem it in the mid-season patch. Please rework Alari's pylon. I'm begging you. It would help low-level players. It would help high-level players. It just needs to get tuned up. Please change that. Please nerf some of this shit you're doing to tanks. Playing super tanks sucks. It's not fun for anybody. It's not fun for the tank players. It just forces more counter swapping. The answer is to lower stats, Blizzard. It is not to raise them, though. All you guys have done for 7 years is power creep things you aren't capable of fixing. So maybe that'll change. Anyway, thanks for watching. That's my season 20 or 12 rant, 11 rant, fucking whatever. They're all bad at this point. God damn it. I wish this was the game I loved. It's just not. All right. Enjoy the video. See y'all later. Peace out.